भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणीश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितं ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षादात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामच्युतव पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ramana. In this Friday's Atma Vichara and Self-Enquiry session, we usually meditate on Bhagavan's Upadesham and we read his Upadesham from this wonderful book called Ramana Answers, Self-Enquiry 1900 to 1950, a compilation of all the questions put to Bhagavan on Atma Vicharam to them. And this wonderful compilation of the question and answers has been done by our founder, President Sri A.R. Natarajanji. And we have been looking at the question and answers put to Bhagavan between 1936 to 1950. And today we will be looking at the 99th question. And after this, we will have a 20 minutes Atma Vichara practice. Then our President Sarada Akka would be contemplating on Atma Vichara as it has been compiled in Ramana Gita by Ganapati Muni, which is also a question and answers, questions put to Bhagavan and answers given by Bhagavan, but compiled in Sanskrit by Ganapati Muni. And then finally, we will have the concluding prayers to Bhagavan. And today's question, the devotee asks Bhagavan, Bhagavan, we note several outward changes in your body and also in your response to the devotees. This is the question. A devotee has observed Bhagavan's changes outwardly in the physical form as well as in Bhagavan's response to devotees. Bhagavan says, that is because you see me as this body. I am ever the same. There is neither will nor change. So long as you identify yourself with your body, you cannot but see me as an embodied being. So long as the doubter is there, the doubt persists. I repeat Bhagavan's answer. That is because you see me as this body. I am ever the same. There is neither will nor change. So long as you identify yourself with your body, you cannot but see me as an embodied being. So long as the doubter is there, the doubt persists. This is, in a way, Bhagavan's way of saying Drishtim Gnanamayam Krutva Pashyan Brahmamayam Jagat. However, is our outlook, that's how the world appears. And further, Bhagavan is saying here the outlook that we hold on to the world would be the outlook we will also hold on to ourselves. First, we hold it to ourselves, then we hold it against the world. Therefore, Bhagavan says, whatever you offer to others, you offer to yourself first. It's a very important recognition that needs to happen, and Atma Vichara makes us recognize this. Whatever we offer to others, we first offer it to ourselves. A very important thing. If I see somebody as a body, an embodied person or a person with name and form, obviously I will see myself as being that. I first become that, and then I recognize the other. If I see myself having doubts about somebody's statement, an intellectual statement or something, see, obviously I have become a doubter, and I am in the realm of the intellect. Then only I can think of asking the doubt or countering with a doubt. So here Bhagavan is making us recognize this. Now, if we are the sadhakas, and if our primary goal is to abide as the self, then these varied perceptions that we hold on to, we need to be seriously, diligently be watchful of them, isn't it? If we don't, then and if we yield to those perceptions without doubting them or without diligently watching them, which Swami Vivekananda says, Tasmat Jagrata, Jagrata, be watchful, watchful. And Sanat Sujatiya in Mahabharata, and the Sanat Kumara says, Pramadam vai mrityu. If you make the mistake, if you yield to these different perceptions, that is death. So that is that pramada. So here we see Bhagavan saying the pramada is not in the self. It is unchanging. It is ever the same. And it is having no will, no intention. Bhagavan says there is no will, no change. So where is the will? Where is the change? Where is this perception? Therefore, it has to be attributed in our liking, in our yielding to an imaginary perception, to an imaginary thinking, which makes the self appear as we are thinking. Like I take myself to be the body, and therefore Bhagavan is saying, you are seeing me also as the body. And if one takes oneself to be a doubter, or having some data recorded, like here he's saying your response also has changed, the devotee says. So there is some recording, some data, and I hold on Bhagavan's new conversation against it and see that there is a change. So in both the case, my outlook is not is of some data, is of being one individual. And therefore I also see Bhagavan as another person, another embodied person, or as another new set of data coming out from him, which is not in line with my earlier data. Now, if you see all of our bewilderment from morning till evening is all about this data. There is a there is a perception, a set of things, that a set of data that we are holding very near to, very near and dear to ourselves, and we want to be in that comfort zone. If the data mismatches with that, then is the problem. I want my stomach to be full, but if the stomach becomes empty, then the data is mismatched. It's not that anything serious is going to happen, but I get bewildered by it. So it's all about data. So Bhagavan is bringing here the clarity that Bhagavan is giving us is by yielding to these changing things, or by yielding to this perceptions, wrong perception created by the idea of division, whereas the self has absolutely no change, no will. But here we are seem to have a free will to decide what we will think, what we make up. Same instance, two people will perceive it as different. If you see a government in a country, one set of people may think it is good. The other set of people, the same government, the same deeds that they are doing, the others may perceive it as not good, need a change. So, so here when we yield ourselves to divisions and to all this thinking which is constantly changing and it is nowhere a common ground for us, then we see the whole world, even though it is the self, as being separate from each other, and having, though we have the free will to see, not to see it as separate, but we using our free will to see it as separate, then blame that there is a will of people outside, and therefore each of them are acting according to their own will, and each of them are changed people from yesterday or very day before yesterday, even though it is all within me. And how is it within me? It is all in the form of an idea, a data, a thought. And it is that data, when I see through that lens, that is when we see that the world is full of embodied people, full of changes, full of inconsistencies. But rather, the inconsistencies is in is in the lens through which I am seeing, the lens of the data, the lens of ideas, the lens of differences, which is what Bhagavan calls it as ignorance. So when all this ignorance is seen to create, when I hold on to this ignorance, when I recognize it to create all the bewilderment, all the problems that I am facing from morning till evening, then I try to free myself from it. by diligently being watchful of not getting carried away by those data, not getting carried away by those ideas and concepts. That is all one needs to do. The unity, the underlying unity, the underlying no will state is our default state. The underlying no change state is our default state. The pure consciousness has not increased in any degrees or lessened in any degrees because we know some additional data or we don't know some additional data, isn't it? If we watch ourselves, we see that the self, the pure being, the self, the pure consciousness that we are, really doesn't go through any modifications at all. And therefore, all these modifications is only when we perceive through this window of ideas and concepts and differences, which is all nothing but imaginary. Like in the dream, it's all imagined and it all looks real at that point in time. The suffering looks real at that point in time. As we are sleeping and dreaming, the suffering, the screaming, the fear, all of it looks very, very real. And when we wake up from that limited ideas and the limited dream that was running, a constant flow of ideas that were running in the dream, when we wake up from it, then we see it was all imaginative and it is not real. And there and then and there itself, we feel the relief from it. So Bhagavan is asking us, has given us Atma Vichara to find that relief in the midst of this vasanas, this constant habit that we have got into by having a outward turned attention towards thoughts, towards divisions, towards perceptions created by data. He has given us Atma Vichara as a tool, as something like Tasmat Jagrata Jagrata, or the diligency, or to stop us getting into a pramada by inquiring to whom is this, recognizing it is for me, and thereupon inquiring who am I. And the question who am I is not to bring that ever present consciousness, ever present presence that of ours, not to bring about the Sat, not to bring about the Chit, not to bring about the Ananda which we are. It is only to remove the ideas and the concepts which has arisen, which has superimposed on that truth, which is going to be causing the disturbance if we attend to it. So Atma Vichara is more to let go the wrong ideas and to recognize the truth, which is the substratum. And in there, Bhagavan says, there is absolutely no will, no change. And in that, the doubter, the idea of the body, then all the changes, all of this is put to a rest because there is no will, nobody thinking there, nobody observing the change. There is only the ever present truth. With the abundant grace of Bhagavan, with which alone we have come to this most direct path, for the next 20 minutes, let us diligently be watchful of letting go all the ideas and thoughts which rise, which is nothing but an imaginary window of through which we are going to see differences. By inquiring to whom is this, become watchful of that window. And therefore, inquiring who am I, because I am the one who is watching through the window. Therefore, who am I? When I put that question, and take it back to the source. What do I really refer to as I? Then we get back to our natural state, which is the grace of the Guru takes us to that state of ours, which is pure presence, which is pure consciousness, which is pure without any will or change, which is therefore full of peace. By inquiring every thought, no matter how many thoughts that rises, Bhagavan has given us the ability to let go the ignorance and to remain in our pristine state of jnana. With His abundant grace, let us practice Atma Vichara the next 20 minutes. Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana. Over to Sarada Akka.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifested as Ramana, in this part of the satsang, we are meditating on the verses from Ramana Gita, the record by Ganapati Muni of answers given by Bhagavan to various seekers of truth, which he has recorded in Sanskrit poetry on the lines of Bhagavad Gita and made it into 18 chapters. We are now meditating on the verses in the 11th chapter, which is called Jnana Siddhi Samarasya Kathanam, the compatibility between Siddhis and Jnana. Just 1 minute. Namo Ramana. Sorry for the break. We are meditating on the verses of Ramana Gita, and we are now on chapter 11, which is called Jnana Siddhi Samarasya Kathanam, the compatibility between Jnana and Siddhis. And in this chapter, the questioner is Ganapati Muni himself. So he has said, Shodashe divase ratro vivikte muni sattamam gurum brahmavidam shreshtham nityam atmani samsthitam. On the night of the 16th, vivikte muni sattamam, the great sage, the great Muni, I approached him. I went to him, Vivikte. Individually, I went to him. When he was alone, I went to him. Who is he? Guru. He is my Guru. And what are these qualities? Brahma Vidam Shreshtham. He is supreme among knowers of Brahman. Nityam Atmani Samsthitam. One who is ever abiding in the self. So each of these adjectives which Muni gives is for us to see the glory of Bhagavan from the perspective in which or through which we have to approach him. When Muni says, I approach such a one, we also are aware that we are approaching Bhagavan. Whom are we looking at? Whom are we turning to? We are turning to the Sadguru. Who is a Guru? The Guru is a remover of darkness. He is the one who is the destroyer of the darkness of ignorance. So why do we come to Bhagavan? We come to Bhagavan, we approach Bhagavan, and in this particular instance, Muni says, when Bhagavan is alone. So if we look at our own turning within, Bhagavan tells us to turn within when Bhagavan is alone, not when we are in the crowd of the company of thoughts. Because the self is a little shy, I feel. Very shy. In fact, if anyone else is there, self does not reveal itself. So we have to find the self when it is alone. In the Arunachala Padigam, Bhagavan says, Arunachala Ekana Vali Niduri, Ekana Vali. You alone have to be present. So when Bhagavan is alone, when we have to ask our question, we have to ask our doubts, we have to approach the Guru. In Bhagavad Gita, the word which is used is pariprashnena. Pariprashna means it is not prashnena. I am told by some commentators, the great ones, that pariprashna means the student waits for the appropriate moment to ask the question of the teacher. And that is why in those days the student was continuously with the teacher. The student being continuously with the teacher, when the moment is appropriate, the student can ask of the teacher what is needed to be asked. So, here also, Muni says, when Bhagavan is alone and recognizing that he is the remover of my darkness. So, when we approach Bhagavan, when we approach the self, we have to have this understanding that the self is going to remove our darkness. The Guru, the inner Guru, Bhagavan says, the inner Guru is the self. Why do we approach the inner Guru? Because it will remove our darkness. It removes the darkness of ignorance. So we are acknowledging that we are at the moment caught up in the darkness of ignorance and we need to move towards light. Sorry. And Brahmavidam Shreshtham. He is shining in the knowledge, that self-knowledge, the supreme awareness of the self. It is not an intermittent or partial awareness of the self. At the beginning of Ramana Gita, we saw Bhagavan saying that when one does self-enquiry, one has that experience of the self. But it is intermittent. When it is intermittent, it is called abhyasa, it is called practice. And when it is steady alone, it is called knowledge. So, when Muni says Brahmavidam, why am I so much in love with Bhagavan? Because he is a Brahmavidam Shreshtam. He is the supreme knower of Brahman. So when we approach him, no doubt can remain, no confusion can remain in us, no darkness can remain in us when we approach Bhagavan. And he is ever abiding in the self. Nityam Atmani Samsitam. Bhagavan is not sitting on a rock in Virupaksha cave. Bhagavan is not sitting on a couch in the old hall. Bhagavan is not sitting among vermin biting his thighs in the Patala Lingam. Bhagavan is sitting in the self. Nityam Atmani Samsthitam, says Muni. So, when we meditate on Bhagavan, Jagadishwara Shastri also says, no, Swatmanandarasanubhuti vivasham. Vivasham is just absolutely intoxicated or engulfed by the essence of the self, the experience of the self. So here Muni says, Nityam Atmani Samsthitam. We are approaching Bhagavan because he is ever abiding in the self. We approach Bhagavan, we turn to Bhagavan because he is the supreme Brahmanishta. We turn to Bhagavan to destroy our ignorance. Upagamya Mahabhagam, says Muni. Getting near to this great one, this immense one. Soham, what am I doing? To whom am I going close? Kaitava Manavam, one who is in human form. He is not that form. He is in human form. He has assumed a human form. But who is he? He is the self. That's why we find Humphrey stating that Bhagavan, God was radiating terrifically from him as if from a corpse, he says. The body of Bhagavan, that sacred body of Bhagavan, which itself was golden hued, that Kaitava Manavam, that form of Bhagavan, people who have seen that form physically, they say that it is radiating, it's just golden hued. People who have seen it in their vision also would have recognized that it is golden hue. It is absolutely beautiful to see. பொன்னொளிர் வடிவினானே sings Satyamangalam Venkatramaya. பொன்னொளிர் வடிவினானே. He is having the gold, the shine of gold, the luster, that lustrous human form, even that beautiful human form, till now when we see that form of Bhagavan, it is so captivating, that form of Bhagavan. That form also, Humphrey says, was like a mere corpse because of the power of the self radiating from it. So, Kaitava Manavam, says Muni. Swami often quotes Sundaresh Iyer, who's and other devotees, saying that when they were in Bhagavan's presence, they never felt they were in the presence of a physical being, a human being, a great human being. They always felt they were in a divine presence. So Muni is also affirming that Kaitava Manavam Ramanam, the sweet name which he has given to Bhagavan, by which all of us turn to him, remember him, Ramana, that sweet name, that Ramanam, Stutavan asmi. I started praising him, he says. I started praising Bhagavan. What is he saying? I approached Bhagavan. I approached Bhagavan when he was alone in the night. It's a quiet time. It's not a time. It's a time when the mind is also getting back into rest. In both ways, the night is also indicative of the silence of the mind. It is restfulness of the mind and aloneness of the self. And I started praising him. Why did I start praising him? Durlabha jnana labdhaye. In order to attain that jnana, which is very difficult to attain, I started praising him, says Muni. See, when we start our practice also, when we sit down for a session of self-inquiry also, we first have the dhyana shloka. We say the dhyana shloka, whichever the dhyana shloka is. That is the praise. There are so many beautiful dhyana shlokas. Some come even in this, one of them would come even in the Ramana Gita, and probably even in the 11th chapter. I'm not very sure. Most probably in the 11th chapter itself later. But, or it could be in the 18th chapter. Now that jnana, to get that jnana, first we should have the bhakti towards the Guru. To get the knowledge, we have to have love for the Guru. So this praising of Bhagavan, I stutavanasmi, I praised him, says. So we have to, in one sense, the praise is, what is the praise? It's the acknowledgement of the glory of the Guru. So unless we acknowledge the glory of the Guru, unless we have faith in the glory of the Guru, then our practice will be, the path will be very difficult. The inward path will be very difficult when we don't have faith in the Guru. But when we have faith in the Guru, the path becomes so simple because we know that the Guru is taking care. That is meant with a praise. So initially, we have to be in a position to praise Bhagavan. That is implied. It is implicit that we are praising Bhagavan. When we sit down for the dhyana with faith, faith is the greatest stuti of Bhagavan, isn't it? So the faith that he is going to give us the jnana, which is very difficult to attain. With this, every session of inquiry, every moment of the path, the practice of the path towards the self, which is very difficult to attain, but which Bhagavan is giving us because he is the Guru and because of his Atmanishtha, we have to be aware. We have to be aware of the glory of the Guru and then turn within. And then he continues, what is the praise which Muni showers on Bhagavan? त्वय्येव परमानिष्ठा त्वय्येव विशदामतिः. Again he talks of his Brahmanishtha. New is that great supreme abidance in the self. Paramanishtha. So every time we are saying, when we say, oh Bhagavan, look at his state of self-abidance, then what happens within us? We are also understanding that's a great state, it is, isn't it? I too should attain it sometime. When we praise a particular thing, we show our own eagerness to be a part of that. So, Paramanishtha, Tvayeva Vishadamatihi. Your mind is absolutely pure. Absolutely pure. So, what happens when one abides in the self? The pure mind, that alone, it, it reveals itself in the manifestation. As a manifest entity, the pure mind is seen, which Bhagavan calls Uladunil Aladila Adishaya Shakti. Ulad Unil. It is there in you, it is there in the self. Alad Ila. It is not apart from the self, but it is a great power. Adishaya Shakti. It's a great power. That is the pure mind by which we see the Jivan Mukta functioning. So, Ambhasamiva Varashir Vijnananam Tvamaspadam. You are the repository of all learning, Vijnana, all sciences, just as the ocean is the repository of all water. So when we seek Bhagavan, we don't have to seek anything else. We have to seek the Atma Vidya alone. We have to seek because that is his supremacy. That is his expertise. That is where he is unbeatable. Muni is saying, you are unbeatable in that area. So if I go to a particular person, when I need legal advice, I should go to a lawyer. When I need medical advice, I should go to a doctor. And that too, now there are specialists, right? If there is a medical problem in each area, there is a specialist. We should go to that specialist to get the best advice. So, what is Bhagavan a specialist in? He is a specialist in Atma Vidya. He is a specialist in allowing our mind to be like his mind, the Shuddha Manas. So, we have to go to him for that. Although he is a repository of all Vidyas, but knowing that everything is available with him, let us not approach him for that everything, but let us approach him for the Atma Vidya alone. That's what we imbibe through these verses of Muni, and then he continues his praise of Bhagavan. He continues through many verses. The praise will go right up till verse 20. We have almost 21 verses in this chapter. More than that, 22, 23, 24, like 25 verses, so 26 verses in this chapter. And in all first was the introduction, then about nearly 15, 16 verses of praise of Bhagavan. But why do we praise Bhagavan? Because first, to build our faith in him. The praise, it reinforces our faith in him. It brings into focus the purpose for which we are related to Bhagavan. We are devoted to Bhagavan, and the purpose for which he has come into our lives. It serves the dual purpose of reaffirming our faith and again revealing the assurance of the Guru as to his purpose, why he is there in our lives. So, with this bhava only, we should do our enquiry. Even when we do the enquiry, when we do it with great faith in Bhagavan, there is no burden of doing the enquiry. Even enquiry otherwise can become a burden. We can become worried, we are reaching a goal, not reaching a goal. It's a very subtle area where there is no awareness of whether there is progress or not. And one is all alone inside, except that the Guru is always there because he's always in that Nitya Atman Samsitam, he's always abiding as the self. Even now, Bhagavan is available always as the self. So, with this assurance and with this conviction, we have to pursue our sadhana, and that becomes possible by the grace of Bhagavan. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri.
Namo Ramana. Apara Satchit Sukhavarirashi Yasyormimatram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chintavinam Hrudi Chintayami Chintavihinam Hrudi Chintayami. Namo Ramana, Namo Ramana, Namo Ramana to all.
Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana sir, Namo